how they got involved with the story, but since we sort of already know from the film your involvement, maybe you can tell us, this is the North American premiere of the film, and judging by the applause, I think it went very well, but tell me, has there been, were you nervous at all to see how the film would play with an American audience, considering many people in the U.S. have probably never heard of this kind of music?
Yeah, because, I mean, a lot of people don't know the story of Algeria. Coming from a French background, they do, but in America, very few people know the story of the French-Algerian War of Independence. And it was important for me as well to share the story that it's, whenever we think of Algeria, we always think of terrorism, Islamism, whatever. And for a change, I wanted people to know that in this country, there are people that just want to play music, have fun, enjoy. I mean, just as normal people. And so it was very important for me, and I'm very delighted to be here. Alongside with my co-producer, Peter.
Musicians that had to leave Algeria, did you find that it was a process of a therapy or feeling welcome back into the culture that they once left?
The musicians didn't go back to Algeria, unfortunately. It didn't happen. Actually, it was the first, the initial writing of the project was that the Jewish musicians go back to Algeria. Unfortunately, we did do that in 2006. And but at the last minute, we were told not to. It was just very complicated. So we either had to finish the film saying they never got together, or have to look for new funding to actually make it happen. And that's how we did it in Marseille. But so, I mean, concerning Algiers, yes, they never got back. But with them and their friends, they actually never kind of fell apart. So it was just a reunion. It wasn't like a therapy or anything, but it was a reunion of their friendships together. I think the therapy part would happen once they actually come back, I hope, one day.
Why did you go back? I guess you're not living in Algeria.
No.
Why did you go back? What was it?
The question is, why did Safinez return to Algeria?
I mean, I'm originally Algerian, but I never lived there. And I was born and I left at the age of 8 months, so I was very, very young. And I was living in Ireland. I was an architect, studying my master's in architecture. And a friend of mine said, come on, I know you're from Algeria. We have to go to Algeria. I want to discover Algiers, and I don't know it. And we actually just decided to go and do the tourists. So we were walking around the town and stuff till I walked literally into this mirror shop to buy the mirror. And it all changed. But at the beginning, it wasn't actually meant to be a film at all. As I said, I was an architect, so at the beginning, I was talking to this guy, and he was showing me all his photographs. And I said to him, I mean, where are all these people? And he goes to me, well, you know, I lost touch. And I'm like, don't you want to see them again? And he goes, of course, but it's complicated. And so I said, listen, I'll help you out. We'll try and find them. But I didn't think it was going to be that complicated, I promise. Not at all. I mean, I thought, it'd be taking 2 to 3 weeks. Actually, it took 2 to 3 years. And once I found them, I just thought, I mean, they had amazing stories to tell, and I just thought it was really worth it for these stories to come on screen. And so I started looking for producers or directors that would be interested in doing this film. And everybody thought it wasn't commercial enough. It's too complicated. I mean, touring 42 musicians, it was too complicated. And that's how I found myself doing it. So I sold my house, my jewelry, everything that I owned, and I started kind of, putting it together. And then soon after, I found myself as well, with the idea of not only directing, producing, and writing a film, but also touring an orchestra, managing them, producing their music albums, and then I managed as well to convince Damon Albarn, the guy from Blur and Gorillaz, to come back with me to Algiers to produce their first album, and that helped a lot because his name kind of he was like a pop artist, and it helped promote the orchestra. So the orchestra started touring after that worldwide, and So I'm still going, and they have a tour organized this year in Europe for about 20 dates, and
Bring them to New York.
Yeah, we have some requests to bring them to New York.
we're hoping maybe next year.
It's a beautiful and really important movie. I've seen some interviews with Rhine musicians, you may know, a more recent generation from Algeria, and they said some of them felt sort of pushed into exile or self-exile because the music they were singing out also about drinking and womanizing and dancing was sort of frowned upon by religious authorities. You dealt a little with the war. How much was the religion, if at all, part of the decision no longer to perform at all?
I mean, this generation of musicians had to deal with the War of Independence, which was a completely different thing. But unfortunately, when they arrived around the 90s, there was Algeria lived through a decade of terrorism, fundamental Islamic terrorism, and these musicians were officially over with music. It was impossible. I mean, some of them had their kids assassinated, slaughtered. I mean, it was just dreadful for them. They lived, I mean, we couldn't treat that as well because the film would have been 3 hours long as well. But they did go through a lot of, when I met one of these, I mean, some of the musicians, when I met them, they had not even touched an instrument for like at least 15 years. So we had to rehearse for about 8 months because they're really, really old. I mean, their age between the youngest was 72 and the eldest was 98. So they're really, really old. Oh yeah, they have an enormous energy. They knock us both down. I mean, they constantly want to party, and they just like they drink you. I mean, they drink the amount of drinks they can go through, and I mean, it's amazing the energy they have. It's amazing that these men, after all the hardships they went through, they're not bitter. I mean, they have this enormous gusto, mojo, which is like the mojo here. It just keeps driving you, and it's such contagious energy because they kind of transcend it to everybody around them, and it's amazing. I mean, it's really, really good.
Actually, we have a lot of questions on this.
Who are the younger musicians that are playing with them?
The story with the younger musicians, what happened is once I put together the first orchestra, which was like about 22 musicians, they were really, really old. So, I mean, they could play solo, they could sing very well, but to play as an orchestra, it was a bit more complicated. So we thought maybe we should get a musical support to keep the music, because, I mean, they'd forget their partition. You have to understand, this music is not written, it's all oral. So they can just play it by ear. So it was very difficult to make them remember everything. And so basically, I decided to go for a younger group, and it happened like this, where one of the musicians, Mr. Fakiri, the mirror maker, he was like, why don't you hire one of the kids of the guy that was with us in class? And then it started off like this, and they ended up being at least 90% of the younger generation were kids of other members of the class that passed away.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for this beautiful movie. Being from Algeria, it brings a lot of emotion and memories. My question was whether you managed to have a screening of the movie in Algeria, and if yes, how was it received there?
Unfortunately not. We've been fighting since like about, 10 months to get it released, because it got released in France in January last, and it had amazing success and an amazing media coverage. And the Algerian press, some of it really supported us, and some had issues with the Jewish aspect, and unfortunately, till the moment we did not get the authorization to release it in Algiers. We're fighting still and hoping that it will get there one day. So.
Yes, but apparently, I think in a few months, maybe like 3 months, finger crossed, the film will be in Algeria, and we will be very proud to be there with the film. All the musicians are very, very excited by this idea, and it's a bit complicated because we just came back from Algeria, and we are fighting for this visa. And can you imagine that there is only 2 cinemas, 2 theaters? The film could be True. Yeah. So it's a big fighting for not much, but we do that because yes, it's very important for us, for the musicians, their family, and all the people from Algiers.
But we do have an amazing support from the people of Algeria. I mean, we could read it through Facebook, and they constantly post, "Come on, please bring it to Algeria, please bring it to Algeria." So we're doing our best, and hopefully it'll get there.
I love this film. First of all, I got the impression that Shabi is an urban phenomenon, that you don't see this in the blood. The ones who were relocated in 1962, did they not ever play again, like the others who were relocated?
They did, but just on their own. Some the few that continued, they just played it for themselves or for like. But when they got moved away from the Casbah, the outskirts of Algiers had a complete different style of life that they weren't used to. So they kind of closed up, and stayed on their own and became very solitary people. So they actually didn't pass it on, unfortunately. But they're doing it now.
We have time for one more question.
I actually got two questions. But one is, we know how you were introduced to the story, but what, I guess, struck you most about it personally and kind of made you want to pursue it as a project? And the second question is, at what point was the plan to always turn it into a film, and if not, at what point did you decide to?
Sorry, I didn't hear the second question.
The second question is, when did you decide to turn whatever the project was into a film, or was that the plan the whole time?
The first question is, well, when I met Mr. Fakiri, I mean, once Juliette met the musicians, she understood. It's once you meet them, you get so attached to them, and they have this passion that you just can only admire, because they really believe. This man really believed that it would happen one day, and it just came one thing led to another. It didn't. I mean, it answers also your second question. It was never meant to be a film or an orchestra, or it was just one thing led to another. They'd say, "Oh, it'd be great if we do that." And at the time, I wasn't from the film business, so I didn't have a clue how complicated things were. So I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's go for a Bercy, 10,000 people. Yeah, let's produce the concert." I didn't realize how big it was, and I realized it along the way. So maybe that was the reason it got made.
Well, folks, the film screens again, so please tell your friends, and remember to vote on your way out. And another big...